Okay, I'd like to call to order the Quincy School Committee Special Organizational Meeting of Wednesday, September 6th. Please stand to say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to save memoriams till our first meeting. We have quite a list according to the superintendent. I'm sad to hear. However, tonight, please keep in your minds your thoughts and prayers of anybody, especially our staff and our students, and a welcome for their return. Thank you. Superintendent, please call the roll.
Mr. Bergoli? Present. Mrs. Cahill?
Present.
Mr. Gattro? Present. Mrs. Hubley?
Present.
Mrs. Lebo?
Present.
Mrs. Santoro?
Present.
Mayor Koch?
Present.
And I'd like to welcome our new North Quincy High School student representative, Amy Tan. Welcome, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Amy, welcome. Please keep in mind that you are our student representative representing our students, and feel free to speak. When you want to say something, don't be afraid to be recognized by raising your hand. I'll make sure that you get to say what you want. But it's important for us to hear our students' voice. So welcome and congratulations on your new role. Hopefully we'll have a partner from the other high school next time. Okay, we're now at our welcome agenda item, and Mayor Koch.
Welcome. I trust everyone's had some time off during the past summer, but I know there's been a little time off for the staff, the superintendent, and the team. I think there was some 100 new staff members. Orientation was just a short time ago. So great job filling all the gaps, getting everything ready, adjusting and I know you continue to adjust because the numbers move a bit with late registrations and all. So I just want to say it's good to be back, and thank you for all the good work that went on this summer.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, would like to reiterate a welcome back, and especially all of you who have worked hard over the summer, taking care of, I believe, 1,500 kids, Superintendent?
Yes.
As they went through our summer programs, and all of you that helped in hiring our 100-some-odd new staff members. So thank you, welcome back, and hopefully this heat will break soon. And we'll now establish what our goals are for the rest of the year. So I believe we'll go committee by committee. And if you have something as a chair that you would like to cross off, or if we would like to add something, please feel free to speak. And we'll start with athletics. And Mrs. Cahill.
Yes. I think that helmets for girls lacrosse, we addressed that last year. The athletic director went to the MIAA and brought back the fact that he thought helmets, and they discussed that helmets aren't required for girls to play. And they even actually mentioned that having helmets maybe makes it more dangerous because the kids feel a little bit more protected and are more aggressive when they do wear them. So, I mean, that's where that's at. I don't know if there's going to be a change in the conversation if we leave it there. So that would be my recommendation.
Mr. Bergoli, how do you feel?
Well, the problem with the MIA is they're non-elected officials, and they're not on the front lines with our kids. And I'm not sure that they are speaking for the best interest of the kids, because I still contend that lacrosse ball is as hard as a baseball. If it's in the side of the head, it's going to do some damage, if not kill you. So
Your wish is that we leave it on.
I'll bring it up again. I mean, I just wish we could send something to the MIA, voicing our displeasure with their decision regarding the non-use of helmets in this particular sport. Boys have them. The ball is not softer. So,
Mrs. Lebo?
Is there any way we can get some, like, do we have a doctor who works for us who could talk to a neurologist who could say whether or not they thought it was before we send a letter without data? I wouldn't mind sending a letter, Mr. Bergoli, but I'd like to have some professional opinion from somebody that we could either support or refute.
Talk to our health coordinator to see if that's something we can do, or have him or her opine on the safety of helmets with regard to lacrosse.
That would be great. I just think it would be nice to have some expert instead of emotional or, and not that I think you're being over emotional, but I think you're passionate and I think I'd like to have some data involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Cahill.
Mr.
Oh, I'm
Guttrow.
sorry, Mr. Guttrow, I'm sorry.
We're simply making decisions whether or not we're going to keep these in committee or not. Is that accurate? I
That's
mean,
correct.
we're not taking action. When we
That's
come back
correct.
in committee, we can decide what
That's
action we
correct.
want to take.
And we can add also, Mr.
Say again?
We can add.
Add additional items, correct. Yep.
Okay, Mrs. Cahill.
Well, and I guess the next one is the bullying and cyberbullying, which I think we've addressed throughout the years, but Mr. Guttrow
We do, no,
brought that to the
we had
table.
a spring presentation on it. It was pretty robust. If I hear anything or anybody else wants to put it in, I mean, we can take that off the agenda for now, but I do have an expectation that as we did this year, we're going to have an update again, probably towards the end of next year, the end of this coming school year. So we can take that as subcommittee because I'm certain we'll get a briefing on it again as we did this past year.
About presentations. And then the next item is middle school athletics, which Mr. Bergoli brought up, and I believe that they have expanded school athletics last year. Is that something that you want to continue to review? But I think they addressed that last year.
Yeah, I know they've, I don't want to say minor sports, but, tennis and swimming and cross-country and track, which is great. But I was looking at maybe adding soccer and/or basketball
Okay.
to the,
So we'll leave it on.
yeah,
and
I mean,
talk to the
it's a
athletic
money
director.
issue and scheduling and all that, so.
The next item is purchasing of athletic apparel, which was referred by Mr. Bergoli also. I don't know that we even had any conversation about that last year.
We actually did.
Did we?
talked-
What did we talk?
We actually talked about the cost of a football helmet. And I think we were kind of surprised at how much they cost. And those are things that have to be replaced or reconditioned every single year. So it's a safety issue in terms of that particular sport. But I just think that, I don't know where our budget lands on that, Mayor, and I know it's costly, particularly for football and hockey. But I can't remember if we had a budget way back when for each individual sport, and we had to stay within that budget. I can't recall. Do we have that, Superintendent?
Sport, and Mr. Mulaney can talk about that if he wishes. I know that Kevin Mahoney presented when he presents before this committee with regard to, his needs, including equipment.
Right.
This year, he is well-equipped, but Mr. Mulaney can talk specifically about any budget questions that you may have.
The only one I would say is that every year it changes because you have an increase in numbers, particularly in the fall, where the kids come in and they're joining a sport for the first time. And if you don't have the right equipment, again, shoulder pads and helmets and the like, you can't outfit a kid properly. And again, it
Correct.
becomes a safety issue. So I think particularly in the fall, I mean, basketball and those other sports, it just require a uniform and kid buys a pair of sneakers and you get a ball and that's it. I mean, it's not a great expense, but hockey and football in particular, I think.
Mr. Mahoney,
Big
he does a
items.
very good job monitoring the needs for each sport. And he obviously advocates for each sport to make sure that they're properly funded, but
We
certainly.
can leave it on and we can ask him to present on.
I just had a call from a coach this late summer about equipment and.
So why don't we leave it on and have him come up and we can ask him how the
Okay.
budget is and how things are going.
Thank you.
And then we have the training and evaluation of athletic coaches. I'd like to leave that on and have a, yeah,
Overview of what kind of PD they got in orientation
yeah,
to the year.
I agree. Okay,
Thank
anyone
you.
else?
Anybody want to add anything to athletics and wellness at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Cahill. Okay, we're moving on to budget and finance. Mayor? Anything you want to take off?
I stripped the whole thing, but I'm sure there's some folks here that would like to keep some things on, so.
You good?
We start over every year with budget, so.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, we've already done 7.
We have the budget now.
Yeah, 4 and 7 are done.
4 and 7 are done. Okay,
everybody good?
we're good.
I think number two could come off because we updated the policy and there's no longer a fee for transportation.
Number 2 is stricken.
Where are you on number two?
Number 2
Okay.
and number 1 also was completed?
Yep.
Was that in the budget, the principal raise?
Yes.
Okay. Equity, diversity, and inclusion, I'm looking down the list. I don't know if we want to take any of those off. As I look at the list, number 9,
I think we've done a ton of work with that. Let's see if our equity, diversion, and inclusion person would agree with me, but I think the curriculum is good as far as cultural
and I know that
relevance.
we've taken this student climate survey, haven't we? The focal survey, or do you want to continue doing that?
We should continue that.
Okay,
Do it every year anyway.
I haven't heard, but
okay. I believe the rest should stay. Facility, security, and transportation, Mr. Cuttrell.
First question, Mrs. Hubley, would you like to keep number 1?
I'm not clear if we're actually completed with that yet, so I think we should keep it on there. We need to have another meeting where we actually get a full review on that.
Got it? Number 1 will stay. Number 2, we had a presentation and discussion on it. QPS vehicle storage, we can archive that, take that off. Number 3, building security update, I think we're keeping that. 4, we will keep. 5, I think we're going to keep because there's going to be a subsequent discussion on that. That's the Special Ed Learning Center. Bus driver recruitment, Mr. Santoro, that was yours. I'm sure it's a constant struggle, but
I think we're still having problems.
yeah, we'll leave it on. The status of the grounds, I know Point Webster has had improvements. The other 2 will keep on.
You'll just taking off Point Webster, or,
Yeah, we can take off Point. We had a presentation on number 8, so we can take that off. I don't recall the status, and this was based on a student petition, wheelchair accessibility at Atlantic. I don't know if the improvements took place.
I don't believe that
A ramp was added outside the building
to get into the gym area.
to get into the gym area, so for voting. But it's accessible, but I don't think there's
We'll-
anything, no, you're saying, you're shaking your head.
We'll keep that until Mr. Hines can come up. QPS school pages update, I'm not sure that those are all consistently updated. That was the issue that we had originally. We'll keep that. Traffic management, Mr. Santoro, Mrs. Hubley, keep that because that's a consistent issue.
Yes, as I witnessed today.
Mr. Mayor, naming the band from and honor of, that can come up. Got it. QPS security at school events, shall we keep that, Mrs. Cahill?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
SIP facilities needs, which is excellent. We'll keep that, right? It's constant ask. Emergency response plans as well, we'll keep that. We'll go to,
Okay,
is that it?
that's it.
Very good.
would we not get rid of 10 now that we have our webmaster taking care of all of this? We already have somebody that's taking care of all of our websites now for our school pages
All
updates, so
all the individual school events, everything's up to
Nah,
date?
so as far as I've heard from parents, they're very happy with it.
Okay,
So Yeah, I think we've already had a presentation from her, so I think we should
I
take
think
10
we can
off.
take 14 off too, because we'll put those in next year too, as those plans come in. I don't think it needs to be on here.
Very good.
Yep. And can we remove one thing out of a group of 3, or do we have to remove the whole one to Ms. Owens? On number 7, where we're taking out Point Webster, are we allowed to do that, or do we have to take out Atlantic and Broad Meadows in order
Well,
to
could I
take out?
just take out the word grounds? Because there's still some Point Webster facilities issues that I'm assuming we want to address.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Policy, Mr. Bergoli.
All right, number 1 is an ongoing, it just stays open because we have a huge policy book. School committee policy, section 5.2.3, emergency closings. I think we've addressed that. So we should take that off. And number 3, we have class rankings, honor rolls, promotion, retention students, graduation requirements. I think we should leave that in. School committee policy book section, community involvement in decision-making. Yep.
We actually did the graduation requirements last
So again,
year.
can we take one out?
We could take, yeah, I think you could just take that item out and just put a strike through, because that one is done.
Thank you. Community involvement in decision-making, should keep that in. School committee policy or assignment of students to schools, I think that should stay in. High school community service learning is back, so I think we should take that out. Creation of health screenings policy, I think that should stay in. School committee policy, agenda format, I think that should stay in. School committee policies about harassment and sexual harassment, I think that should also stay in. Creation of a cell phone policy, that's been taken care of, so I think we should strike that. School committee policies, again, school, student attendance, compulsory attendance, admission, residency, and parental responsibility, I think that should stay in.
Did we do that? Did we update that? No? Oh.
No, not totally. Naming the Point Webster Middle School field for private John Mariano, I think we did that. Creation of policy limiting food deliveries referred by Ms. Cahill. I think we should just keep that. Revision of the student,
Didn't we do that? We didn't do that? We let the kids get food delivered? Do we let the kids get?
I think we made it,
Okay.
I think it was students.
it was both.
Yeah.
It was both?
Yeah,
Students have been stopped
they deliver.
by the principals, but
Okay.
staff is another issue.
Also, I don't see a problem with the staff getting food delivered, but revision of the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook, referred by Mrs. Lebo. I think we should leave that in. School committee policy for service animals referred by myself. I think that has been addressed. Yep. School committee policy, sections 4.4 grants, proposals, special projects, that's been addressed. School committee policy sections, gifts from the public, that's been addressed. Year-long school committee agenda, that stays in, obviously. And 2023-24 school committee meeting calendar, we should take that out, and we need to add it when appropriate. The 2023-24 QPS school year calendar should stay in. I think we're gonna have an amendment to that next meeting. Creating professional staff caseload guidelines, I think we're gonna keep that in. Policy book, wellness policy, referred by Mrs. Cahill, that's gonna stay. And policy book section 1019 concussion policy, I think that's reviewed every couple of years, am I correct, Mrs. Owens? And naming North Quincy High School basketball court.
Quincy High.
I'm sorry, my bad. Naming Quincy High School basketball court, referred by Mrs. Santoro, and that stays.
Okay, anybody want to add anything?
I hope not. It's
Okay,
24.
we have rules, post audit, and oversight, Mrs. Cahill.
Delete it all. Everything in there.
You've met quite a bit over the year.
I know, huh?
Okay, we're down to special ed, Mrs. Hubley.
Yeah, I'm going to keep everything in there. The Special Education Learning Center is not quite finished yet, and the other three items were just added recently in June, and we haven't had them yet, and then haven't on the agenda. So if I could go back for 1 second, though, the equity, diversity, and inclusion, the last item on there
What is it?
says 2022. Do we want to either eliminate that or add 2023 to it instead, so that it's updated, referred by Mr. Guttrow?
It's number 12.
12, yeah. Since it was on the next page, we didn't talk about those two items. But the last item, but it says 2022 DESI accountability data, so referred by Mr. Guttrow. So I think we should either add 2023 or eliminate 22 and then add it when we want to add it.
So I think that was referred by Mr. Guttrow at the presentation where all of the data was presented last year in October, all the MCAS and MAP data. So, much like the facilities, maybe we should take it out here and then re-refer it
Re-add it in when
after that
we get to it.
presentation. Yep.
That would be my suggestion, if that's all right with Mr. Guttrow.
Okay. That's it, Mrs. Hubley?
Yeah, all set.
Okay, teaching and learning, Mrs. Lebo.
Did you skip special education?
I
Oh,
did
no,
it.
she did it.
Keeping everything in.
Graduate follow-up survey's been in there for a long time, and I haven't really seen any evidence that we're doing it, though I know we have to be doing it for the Chapter 74 students. So I would like to see that at some point this year. I'm not sure when you think that might be the best time, but I know we're doing it. And we can also do it through that, that site, the college site? No, something else. Say it again?
Common App.
Yes, with Common App. There's a, you probably know better than I do. The College Board can tell us how many of our students went and stuck and how many years it took them to get through. So I'd like to see that at some point in time. Informational request about an international baccalaureate program, but referred by Mrs. Hubley.
We can eliminate that.
We're going to eliminate that. Chinese language immersion program, I think we should leave that there also. Adding American Sign Language to the world language curriculum. But I've been talking about that for 35 years. We can leave it there, but early college, high school program, referred to by Mrs. Perdios. I think that we've seen lots of stuff on that, and I'm sure we'll get a report on it again this year. I don't think it belongs in here anymore. Before school childcare is still an issue for our families, and we don't know what we can do about it, but I think it needs to stay on here so we realize that it's an issue. The digital literacy program update, did we get that? I think we did, yeah. And were you happy with that, Mr. Guttrow? Okay, we can take that off. High school grading review and analysis. We also, we did the grading, so that should come off here. Ms. Owens, we did the grading part of that, right? The high school grading is done?
Yes.
So, Mr. Guttrow, are you okay with that?
Number 8.
Okay. The health, social, emotional learning curriculum map was done. I don't think it's been shared with this full committee yet, and so I'd like to see that happen sometime soon, but I'll leave it on there just until that happens. School and program improvement plan development, we want to talk about the school improvement programs before we get any school improvement programs.
Yes.
So we should have that on the meeting. I'm going to leave that for a little while. Superintendent's goals are done. Kids vote, we got an excellent presentation from the central office on that, so if I take 11 and 12 off. Anybody want anything else on?
Good. Amy, you want to add anything? No, I'm only teasing you. But don't be afraid to speak up, okay? All right. We have, say again? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Guttrow.
Either an addition or an amendment to budget and finance, if I could. Just a suggestion. So number 5 talks about the ESSER, and this is homework for Mr. Mullany, ESSER funding expenditures and the impact on future budgets. Is there any ARPA money that's lapsing? And you know, to overlay it with grants, and then any insight onto the new tax and funding that came through to us over the last year. I'm not looking for any of that now, but I'm saying that I think that would be useful so that we have like a 5-year projection on what's lapsing and how much money we might have to make up down the road. So that's my request, please.
Into that also. I know you probably, with me, were horrified about the situation that happened to one of the communities south of here on their budget. And I would just like to have I'd like to have a presentation of how that could have happened someplace, how it could happen here. What could, not that I'm blaming or trying to figure out their issue, but how could that possibly happen?
He couldn't, Quincy. That'll not what happened.
I don't think so either, but I'd like to, I mean, it's probably gonna have a big investigation. It's gonna be somebody's business, that somebody knew this was going on, I would
Spend
guess,
more than
right?
you have is the way, you spend more than you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just horrified me to think that that could possibly happen to, and that the fallout has been horrendous for people, and including the district, so, I don't know if that could be in here, if we could just, is that even something that you could discuss? Okay, thank you. Briefly. That would be great.
Okay. Item 3, school committee goal setting. Mr. Hardy from MASC is willing to meet with us on 3 different Saturdays. He's given us October 21, December 2, December 9, I'm sorry, there's a 4th, December 16. All of them, I believe, are on Saturdays, Mrs. Owens? Yes. If you could send the dates that you would be available to Mrs. Owens, we could try to set up a date where we can sit with Mr. Harding to allow us to set up our goals.
Yeah, can you say those again?
Yes, just October 21, December 2, December 9, December 16. And if you could do that by tomorrow, end of the day tomorrow, that would be great. Okay, I think we have it, unless there's any additional business. We see each other again on a week from today.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by the mayor, seconded by Mrs. Hubley. All those in favor? Opposed? And the ayes have it. Amy, welcome again, and everybody else, welcome back. Thank you.